Abracadabra, create what you speak with iLan Azoulai. Hello, welcome to Abracadabra, create what you speak. I'm iLan Azoulai, a spiritual mentor and sound therapist for women and men who are ready to raise their vibration, reveal their gifts, and shine them to the world, all with no fear, so they can manifest their life. This is an empowerment program that I bring anybody from all walks of life, artists, scholars, educators, anybody who is in their gifts and is shining their gifts to the world so they can encourage others and have fun along the way, because without fun, it's not fun. My guest today is Angie Berrett. She's a registered nurse, movement coach, and yoga instructor. She has created a proprietary way of moving that can decrease anxiety, depression, stress, PTSD, etc., and increase people's mind-body connection while building strength, flexibility, and greater sense of empowerment. Angie strives to create positive experiences in a supportive and uplifting environment. In 2018, Angie became a 200-hour registered yoga teacher through Yoga Works in Columbia, Maryland. She quickly became a certified SUP yoga instructor, SUP, and we'll talk about that, it's quite interesting, through Long Wave Yoga in Wilmington, North Carolina. In 2021, she became advanced certified in trauma, informed yoga, and somatics. This is a really great topic. I'm really excited to have Angie here. And let's bring Angie.
Hi, iLan. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. What a blessing. How are you feeling?
I am great today. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully great. Thank you. It's great to be here. I don't know what the weather in your place is, but here in La La Land, it's quite sunny, you know?
It's
But
sunny, but it's cold. We've had a blizzard here recently, so lots of snow.
so now you're in Utah, right?
I am in Utah right now,
You
correct?
are in Utah. So tell me, Angie, maybe you can share a little bit more about your story, about what's interesting is how you got to that, because, we're not born yoga instructors and yoga teachers. And I work with sound and Tibetan bowls and frequencies, so we don't get to there, but focus is on you. How did you get to there? And tell me about this. Tell us about the SUP yoga, because I saw
Yeah.
that's quite cool.
Yes. So I am a registered nurse. I graduated nursing school in 2003. I have been a nurse for almost 20 years. And much of my work was done in emergency departments, intensive care units, high acuity, very stressful environments. And I ended up having a patient assault. I got assaulted by a patient and it messed my back up pretty badly.
Mm.
So I switched and moved to education. I became a teacher. I taught nursing school. I taught nurses how to be nurses. And then in 2017, things in my life personally kind of hit rock bottom.
Mm.
I am a child abuse survivor and realized that I needed to start dealing with some of the repercussions of my child abuse because it was impacting my ability to function.
Yeah.
And it was too much for me to do patient care. I worried that I was going to inadvertently hurt someone because I just was having a hard time being fully engaged with working and what I was doing.
Mm.
So I decided to go back to graduate school actually to become a nurse practitioner. So I started a master's program and got halfway through my master's program and realized that was not what I wanted to do. I loved what I was learning, but I felt like I was not really able to help people in a way that I wanted to. I didn't feel like I was being validated. So I decided to take a break. And I have practiced yoga for years. I have been a yoga practitioner. And it just so happened that while I was taking a sabbatical from graduate school, the yoga studio I attended was offering a yoga teacher training. So I thought I need something to do while I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And so I took this yoga teacher training and I loved it. I loved being able to work with people in a way that helped to change things before they got to the point where they would have to come to me in the ER. So it felt very proactive to me. I felt like I got to really engage with my clients, work to help shift stress, anxiety, depression. That just causes so many long-term chronic health problems. And I felt like I now was able to do something to help modify that and shift that, change that trajectory or that pathway for many people.
Wow, wow, that's
So,
fascinating. Before we touch the sup yoga, I want to go
yeah.
back here. This is quite an ordeal probably when you're describing that that a patient attacked you.
Yes.
Do you feel was it's kind of like it's kind of some people may find it a little bit discouraging. You say, you know what? I'm here to help people. I don't need to be attacked. Now, granted, we are coming from place of a higher vibration, of a higher consciousness to help people, and yet we're still human, you know. So our triggers trigger,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when somebody attacks you, despite how you are, you know, you react. What did you feel when you were? Can you bring yourself to that moment where you were attacked? And you know, sometimes when you do something, let's say something in the house, like when I clean sometimes and I see the chair is up, I could see that it's going to fall, like the way that I put it, but there is nothing I can do about it. You know, it's like, boom, it falls.
Yes.
Did you kind of anticipate or see that there is a danger of you being assaulted? And if you can bring yourself to that moment of how did it feel and what went through you when it
Yeah.
happened?
Well, I did not necessarily. I, I don't think I ever expected that I would be assaulted, although as nurses, we get training on that quite a bit. It is a common problem.
Mm,
The situation, the patient was a psychiatric patient and had assaulted numerous police officers before they brought her into us. So she was having some sort of psychotic episode.
I see.
And I had her in restraints, and restraints are a very big deal when as healthcare professionals we put a person in restraints because we've now taken away their liberties. There's very strict guidelines, very strict regulations. And our mental health worker had come in and evaluated her and told me to take her out of the restraints. And
Mm,
I did not feel comfortable with it. I knew she was not safe to come out. I knew there was going to be a problem. And yet, legally, I had to take her out because if I did not, I could be held for assault and battery. I could actually be charged with assault and battery. And I was debating. I was trying to convince the healthcare worker, the mental health practitioner, that it was not safe. So we reached an agreement that I loosened up her restraints while he went and talked to the doctor because I knew the doctor was going to back me up and say, no, she's absolutely not safe to come out. Well, sure enough, the patient managed to escape and she got out of her restraints and then tried to leave the ER, which we couldn't let her leave because she was a danger.
so
She was
this
a
is a regular ER.
This is a regular ER.
Regular ER.
Yes,
Okay.
regular ER.
Okay.
And as we were trying to bring her back to her room, she
Yeah.
ended up kicking me. And I went flying across the room and it messed my back up pretty
Oh
badly.
wow.
And I remember thinking, what just happened? And then I was in such excruciating pain that I couldn't, that was all I could process. It was just how bad my back hurt. And interestingly enough, so I went through physical therapy, workman's comp. It was this whole big mess. And I continued to have back pain for longer than what I was told I should have back pain for. The doctors could not figure out why I was continuing to have this back pain 6, 8 months later, based on the injury
Mm,
that I
mm,
had.
mm.
And it was interesting. I started doing work, emotional work around it. And I realized that I was carrying guilt. I felt like I deserved to be hurt because my instinct was not to take her out. I didn't
Mm.
want to take her out.
Yeah.
And yet I did. And so once I was able to let go of that guilt, my pain just
Disappeared.
disappeared. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was very, I was surprised that I was carrying guilt,
Mm.
that I felt like I deserved it, that I didn't listen to myself.
Well, no, this is fascinating because as you were talking, and I had the divine chills go through my body as you were talking because I wanted to ask you, and you answered that question already. How did it trigger anything from childhood? and from being bullied and all these kind of things that and whatever you want to share, we'll get to that. Did it trigger? And obviously triggered. Now the thing with the guilt is, I can tell you also, the thing with the guilt is that you know how you have certain things that are organic, certain
Hmm.
things that develop organically, and
Yes.
certain things that are derivative of that organic creation,
Yes.
right? So guilt in certain situations, especially in child abuse, I know because I've been there. I'm a survivor of, I don't like to say survivor because, okay, survivor, whatever, for the lack of a better word.
I use Thriver. I
Thriver,
thrive.
survivor, I passed it, child
Yes.
abuse, sexual abuse, all this kind of stuff that I went through as a child. So I could recognize that because I've done a lot of work on that. And I can recognize that the need to please many
Hmm.
times, and the need to please and the need to please especially those who are or who are, were or the representation of bullies
Hmm.
is greater, and then the guilt is a derivative of that because you really don't want to please them.
Correct.
You,
Correct.
you really don't want to please them, and then you please them, and then you feel guilty that you've done that. There is guilt, there is shame, there is, because it all boils down to shame. And so
Yes.
so I totally can empathize with what you've said. This is really powerful. And so at that moment, did you realize that you were thrown back to childhood, or it took time for the process to happen? Because at that time you felt guilt.
It took time for the process to happen. I actually had no memory of my childhood abuse until
Mm,
about 2017.
wow.
So I knew it was taking me back to something that didn't feel
Yeah,
good,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
wasn't quite sure what it was at that point.
yeah. Oh wow. So that happened. Now, how did you feel as a nurse? Did you feel supported by the department, or did you feel that they're still trying to find you, so to speak? Like like put something on you, oh, it's your fault that this happened.
No, I didn't feel like they were trying to put it on that it was my fault. I
Okay.
felt like they were pushing me to come back to work earlier than I was ready. Nobody could figure out why I was still having pain, and I was expected to come back and to continue doing patient care, even though I physically was not able to do the patient
Yeah.
care. So they moved me to other departments, and it just never was quite the same. It was more like, when are you going to be back? When are you going to be
Yeah,
back?
yeah. They
Not,
didn't get it. It was somatic. They didn't get that.
no, no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So after that, so now you so let's talk a little bit about the sup yoga. 'Cause I want to
Yes.
go backwards, but I want to touch about that.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Tell us about the sup yoga.
Yeah, step yoga is stand up paddleboard yoga. So it is yoga done on a paddleboard. If you've never seen it, it
Hmm.
is phenomenal.
Yeah, no, there's big boards. They're not really there are surfboards, but they're really big for beginners.
They're bigger than most
Yeah,
typical surfboards. Yeah. And there are ones that are designed specifically for yoga. So they're a little bit wider, a little bit longer, a little more stable.
yeah.
And I had my own paddleboard and would just go out and do my own yoga. I kind of didn't have any training, any formal anything. I would just go. It is, and I say this is stand up paddleboard yoga is probably one of the most amazing mindful exercises that you can do,
Wow.
because you get instant feedback when your mind wanders because you fall into the water. It takes instant, I mean, constant focus, constant attention to your body. It helps folks to be able to tap into their bodies in ways that they didn't know that they needed to. So maybe they're not engaging into their muscles as much. And so teaching that, I actually take a lot of my clients who have some sort of trauma or we're working somatic wise and put them on paddle boards and do yoga that way, because it's a fun, it's a playful way to do it. And they have to be in their body or they're going to fall off. And falling, I tell everybody, falling isn't failing. So that doesn't mean you failed. It just means your mind has wandered. And how can you bring it
That's
back to
great.
the present
That's
moment?
great. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, that's great. And you are in Utah, so whoever is joining us now, I'm here with Angie Berrett. Angela or Angie? Angie, right?
Angie is usually what I go by. Angela is my official name.
official. So Angie Berrett, she's a certified nurse and a certified registered nurse and a certified yoga instructor, and she works specifically with people that have gone through some trauma in their life. I mean, who hasn't? We, we, we all went
Exactly.
through
I say
traumas.
everybody has trauma, whether it's big T trauma like child
Exactly.
abuse, or little T trauma like constant stressors,
Yeah,
anxiety, just the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
normal daily life.
Well,
So
we're all born with traumas. We're born through trauma, through the
yes.
birthing process and a birthing experience. And Angie, she has a wonderful experience where she's doing a stand-up paddleboard yoga. This is great because I haven't done that before, and I'll be down to do that. I don't know if I'll go to Utah all the way because I'm in LA, but you have more water here.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been living in Maryland. I've been doing it in Maryland. So I have personally, I have inflatable boards so that they can roll up. They travel with
Oh,
me.
oh,
They go
cool.
wherever I go.
Inflatable
Yeah.
boards. So they're really like it's not like a round. It's like a board, a straight board, but it's just inflated. And I would think that they're harder to do yoga on because they're not really solid flat. They're not solid surface.
Personally, I find them easier to do.
Ah,
So you can have hard boards, and some people do. There are hard paddle boards that are made for that. I have one of those. I actually prefer my inflatable ones because you can inflate them with enough air that they're very firm. It's very
mm,
steady, but they're more flat. The hardboards have more of a rounded bottom, so you get more tilt, whereas the inflatable ones tend to
hmm.
be more flat, and so it tends to be an easier surface, I think, personally, to do yoga on.
I see. I see. Um, you were talking about the process where you were healing this black hole
Yes.
of your on your website, and for everybody's joining, the website is listed down here, and the contact information for Angie. You're more than welcome. You're encouraged to reach out. I won't talk about the black hole, but I want to say how Angie and I met.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Angie and I met through a BC Accelerator program by Jen Gottlieb and Chris Winfield. It's an empowerment program. It's a program to empower your work and how you do your work and how you show yourself out to the media and to the world. And it's really great platform
Yes.
to me because we're connected. And you know what I liked about this group is that there was cohesion versus isolation,
Yes.
cohesion versus separation. You see different groups. I've been to many groups, and I've experienced many work habits and work groups where the competition there is to a
Yes.
point, right, where where
Mhm.
where toes are being
Yes.
crushed and stepped on, and with disregard to the other person. But this was really, I mean, there were hundreds of people in this group, and everyone who showed themselves really was about cooperation and about the experience, and
And
so
supportive, and
very
so
supportive.
supportive.
Yeah,
I was not expecting that. That was definitely a caught me off guard. Mhm.
yeah, right. Very supportive. So did by the way, did this working on your pitches and everything, did that kind of triggered more experiences that you went through? Because I know that during the process, I went through some somatic experiences when I was writing certain things and recalling certain things. It actually took me back to certain places that created some discomfort, and I realized this discomfort where it's coming from, like, with like lower back or upper back, and then within a couple hours, it's just like poof. Once I realized that, once I accepted that,
It
so
did for me,
I'm sorry.
actually. Yeah, it did. It did create some angst. It brought up some sensory stuff. I was taught, because of my abuse at a very young age, that being seen or wanting to be big, wanting to have any sort of attention on me was unsafe. And
Hmm.
so I'm now intentionally trying to put myself out there. And so it did create some angst, and I knew
Yeah,
that it was going to, and I was
yeah,
prepared for it, and it
yeah.
did.
So how does that play out for you now?
Well, it still is somewhat uncomfortable for me to actually be seen.
Mm,
I um, so one of the things that happened with my abuse is that um, uh, I was filmed, and my abusers were making their own variation of using cameras and creating
gotcha.
child pornography. And so being on video is very uncomfortable for me. And
Mm,
so I know that, and I call it my pre-game ritual to kind of release some of my anxiety about and my nervousness about being on video.
okay.
And so I move it out. I'm big on movement. I dance it out, I shake it out, I get rid of it, or as much as I can. And then afterwards, I tend to also still do some movement to shake
I
it
see.
out, to
I
release
see.
it.
I see. Well, first of all, and this is one thing in the beginning I wanted to say, thank you very much for the courage to share your or at least some of your story, or to share the experiences, because this is difficult. This can be challenging, and you're doing a wonderful job. You're here,
Thank you.
and you are present, and you are sharing, and this is really all this is intended to be, is to encourage others that are watching this program to come up, show yourself. It's okay. It's okay to show yourself. It's more than okay to show yourself. We want you to show yourself. I
Yes.
want you to show yourself, because you know what is it's the day that you were born, and each one of us, the day that each one of us, each one of you was born, is the day that God decided that the world cannot do without you. So this is really really encouraging. So thank you for sharing, Angie.
Thank you.
So how did you find that? Now the movement is very important. The movement is crucial, is important. I notice it with myself, and I meet more people that are teaching the movement and different kind of movements. How did you realize that it's actually helping you with healing your dark, as you call it, dark hole, or
Black hole.
black hole? Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry,
no, that's okay.
black hole. So, and the question: are you still referring to it as a black hole, or is it something that I just said and you are piggybacking on it?
No, I still refer to it as my black hole. I think so. I
Why?
practiced yoga. I'm sorry, say that again.
Why?
Why is it still my black hole?
Yeah,
Because it's not completely healed yet.
I see.
I'm still working through some issues. Still aware of some of the stuff that is still needing to be resolved.
Yeah,
It is much smaller. It is not nearly as prevalent as it was, but every once in a while it still gets activated, and I'm aware that there's this. I don't even have any other words to describe it. I've tried to come up with other ways, but it's just this whole, like right in my center, this black hole of just pain
hmm,
that I've had
hmm,
my whole life.
hmm.
And you asked, how did I start
Realize.
to
Yeah.
realize that movement was such a big part of it? And it's been an interesting journey. So I teach yoga, and at a certain point in my journey healing from my own trauma, yoga became too much for me. I could
Hmm.
not handle yoga. It was too much for me to learn how to, or to be in my body.
What was it? Was it painful? Were you distracted?
All of the
How
above.
all
It
of the
was
above?
physically painful. It was emotionally painful.
I
I couldn't
see.
make myself go. I just had such anxiety about even being in a class, seeing what was going to come up as I was going through a practice. It was too much.
I see.
And so I actually stopped practicing for a little while. I can teach yoga, but to be a student was too much for
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
And then I started taking a training. So COVID hit, and I was able to take a training with an organization called Collective Resilience Yoga that teaches trauma informed yoga. And that was really what kind of shifted and changed my life, first of all, and then also my perspective, and has
I see.
led me to where I am now. And trauma informed yoga provides opportunities for choice, for empowerment. You don't want to do something, you don't have to do something. It creates space for choice, whereas sometimes traditional yoga can be very structured and
Rigid.
sometimes rigid. Yeah, I would use that word, some teachers. And trauma-informed yoga gives more space, more freedom, more openness to experience different things. And part of also what we were learning as I was going through my training was how the nervous system plays into it. So actually understanding the physiologic responses, and I'm a nurse, so scientifically that makes sense to me, but understanding that when I got to a point where I wanted to peel my skin off, I needed to do some sort of movement to release that anxiety or to do things like that. And one of the things that we learned in my training was that, well, we're all mammals are born with pre-wired circuits in our brain. We're already born. So if you think of baby puppies, baby monkeys, baby humans, we all have these circuits that are pre-wired. And play is one of those circuits. And so trauma-informed yoga does a lot more playful movement. It allows to tap into play, which is one of the ways that we are able to heal. And so as I was doing that, I just started in my own body creating these movements that were nothing like yoga, but that was just play. I allowed my body to play to do what it wanted.
Yeah. Wonderful.
And as I was doing that, I could just feel tension and trauma releasing, and it allowed me to be able to sit in therapy to process the trauma because I was letting go of the energy surrounding it.
Wow, that is fascinating. Play is a crucial connecting back to your inner child.
Yes.
You know, your inner child that is filled with joy. It's you know, there is the question, the $64,000 question that asks, what is our natural predispositions as humans? Is our natural predispositions as humans to be sad or to be happy? You know, and the answer for that is really to look at babies, how babies and kids are. You know, they're by default they're happy unless you take something from them, unless you do something to them. But by default they're happy and they're full of wonder. And wonder, and what is wonder? Wonder is, it doesn't even need courage. You know, if you think about it, wonder doesn't need courage. Courage, we use courage to break out of our confinement that we created ourselves.
Yes.
To have courage to break out of our own jail cell.
Yes.
Where wonder is just, I'm going to that puddle. I don't care if there is a hole in the middle. I'll realize it later. You know.
Seeking. So kind of along with wonder, seeking is one of those circuits that were pre-wired. We're designed to be seeking, to figure it out, to play, that's one of those. Seeking is the official term that they use for the circuit, but wonder, you
know, wonder is like with awe. You walk with everything. Like, wow, you discover something. You know, there is something new to discover, some new world to discover. Do you work with children, or do you work only with adults, families? How does it work?
I mostly work with adults. I have worked with some children. I typically prefer to work with adults because after age 25 is when our brain has the rational thinking part of our brain fully forms at age 25. Up until then, the rational part is still forming. And I like to work with those people who have that formed and are wanting to break out of those cycles that they, or the patterns that they already have. I can work with children.
Yeah. Wow, this is really fascinating. I'm sure that some of you are watching here are parents, are mothers, and I would say that the yoga is probably more for the parents, really, because you know, dealing with a lot of things that we're going to as families, as people with families that are going through now with the coronic era, as I call it, with the isolation, because this is what created the kids that are born into this, that are coming now into this, and young adults and young kids that were born before but are going through this separation. It's really creating a separation. You know, look at that. We know how to, or at least many of us know how to read facial expressions, know how to feel body language. So we as adults that face this coronic thing are we know expression, so we can see through the mask. We can
Yes.
see through everything. But kids, they don't get touch. They don't
No.
see the expression of the face.
Mm-mm.
There is no connection. And
Mm-mm.
so these children are being brought up this is a terrible, terrible time to bring somebody up because it's like the
It's
whole
a
thing is about,
traumatic time. It's creating trauma for all of us.
yeah, it is indeed. Wow, this is really fascinating. I'm still thinking about that paddleboard thing because it's like it's really
I highly recommend it. It is such a great experience. I take people out, even who are terrified of water, who've never paddleboarded, who've never done yoga. And it just is this opportunity to be in your body in a
yeah,
way
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
that nothing else provides that I found.
yeah. Now, how do you do it online? Because I saw on your website, and you're more than welcome, all of these, to go into the website and to see how Angie works. But how do you do it with online? I know I do groups and I do sound sense online, and there are some pros and cons, obviously, to that. But how does it work with you online? I mean, obviously, you can't do paddleboard online.
No, that one I do have to do in person. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, that one is limited to in person. I do work online with clients doing playful movements. I've created a proprietary, non-traditional way of moving that allows for play, that allows for this
Oh, that's
release of
great.
movement.
That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
and I do it through Zoom. I have a large computer screen and I can watch people. I'm looking for those cues, kind of like what we talked about, but I'm looking for cues that people are going into overwhelm or they're getting too stressed out. And so I can teach and do teach one-on-one clients through Zoom to release that stress, anxiety, and depression, still in playful ways, just not necessarily on a paddleboard.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Wow, so this is really nice. So I want to take you back a little bit to
Mhm.
back a little bit.
Okay.
How was your family about that? How was your support system about that? When you were a child and you were going through that. Now, you were underage, right?
I was underage,
You
yes.
you were underage.
Hmm.
Uh, how, about how old were you, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't mind. It started when I was around 2.5 or 3,
Yeah.
and went on for a number of years. That's a complicated question. My abusers were not my parents. It was friends of my parents, and it happened at church. And so there was this pedophile cult hiding within the congregation of the church that we went
Wow.
to. And so it was friends of my parents, and it was very challenging because my parents didn't see it. Now, this was also, I'm 44, so this was 40 years ago where it wasn't talked about. It
Exactly.
wasn't as well known. And
And that
so
was in Utah or in Maryland?
I actually grew up in Colorado. I'm a
In
bit of a big,
Colorado.
yeah.
Okay.
So it was in
Okay.
Colorado.
Okay.
And so I did not have the support going through it. I had no memory. These were my parents' friends. I
Yeah.
believed that this was what God wanted because that's what my abusers were telling me.
This is the
And
environment you grew up into,
it
also,
was,
you
yeah,
know. So
absolutely.
it's natural that you'll feel that or think that.
Yeah. And so as my memories started coming out and I started healing through that as an adult, my parents have been very supportive. They believe me. They've never questioned me. They do what they can to be there and support me. It has created some challenge with us because they are still very much in their faith, and I have made a very large transition away from that. And so we've had to struggle to learn how to relate to each other again now. And yet they are still as supportive as they can.
I see. Wow. And I'm positive that it affected also your before you realize that you're and before you went through the healing and starting the healing process, that it affected your relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm divorced, so I perpetuated the cycle. I married someone who was abusive for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the religion that I grew up in, divorce is not very welcomed. And so even just to leave my husband was was a big deal.
Despite the fact of the abusing and all this kind of stuff that was happening. Yeah.
You're supposed to forgive, you're supposed to work through it, all those things. And I realized I was perpetuating a cycle that I did not want. I didn't know it was the child abuse cycle, but it was something that's what contributed, I think, to that black hole. No, I think it 100% contributed to the black hole.
For sure.
And so leaving my marriage and then ultimately leaving the religion helped me to be able to have space to actually even start to explore what this black hole of pain was, let alone start to heal it.
Yeah. This is fascinating and encouraging and sad, of course, as as it can be. It is such a painful experience. I recall, I recall my story. Here's the thing: we all go through the same emotions, the same feelings, and emotions. I said that already, but we're just different stories. Everybody has a different story in a different timetable and a different intensity, maybe. It depends on your karmic connection, on your journey, on what box of crayons you were given when you came here.
Yes.
How to paint your picture and what places in your soul need to be elevated. I work through Kabbalistic concepts and downloads and information and downloads, and I see that everything is part of our journey. Our soul is coming back to elevate that which we haven't elevated before in our previous cycles.
Yes.
And we've all met before.
Yes.
People that we connect with, we all have met. We're all like...
I agree. Absolutely.
This is fascinating. So Angie Berrett is a yoga instructor, a certified nurse, and the beautiful thing is that she works through movement, encouraging and implementing movement, and she's doing this wonderful paddle yoga, stand-up paddle yoga. I'm still talking about this because it's so fun. It sounds so fun. I used to surf years, and so I love that. Yes. I love just anything in water.
Me too.
And anything in water.
It's so to do stand-up paddleboard yoga, the shavasana or the final resting pose of a yoga class, you're laying on a board and you're kind of just getting the gentle rocking of the water. You get to hear the sounds of nature. It is truly one of the most inspirational, like empowering, connecting to something greater than yourself. It's my favorite way to do yoga.
Oh man, come on, come to LA.
Okay, I'll come to LA.
Come to LA.
Yeah.
So wait, don't they drift? I mean, are they doing it in the ocean, or are you doing it in a pool or something?
I usually do it in moving water, but there's an anchor. You drop an anchor so that you just kind of move around the length of the rope of your anchor.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's fascinating. Yeah. This work with movement yoga is definitely another wonderful tool to work through the mountains of our lives, to work through them and not around them. So this is really encouraging. Angela, wow, this is like where.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe how quickly time has gone. This has been so fun talking to you, iLan.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. It's been fun talking with you, and it's still fun. This is great. This is what we do. We support one another. We bring one another to the world because everybody has different gifts, and everybody resonates with somebody on a different level, and a different. It's just a different connection. Yes. We may do the same things, but each person is a different energy. Nobody is alike. So,
and it could just be that I'm working on a vibrational level that connects with someone that doesn't connect with anyone else.
Absolutely. There are those people, and we'll see following this broadcast. People, please reach out. People, please reach out.
Please reach out.
Reach out to Angie Berrett. No, reach out. She's really great. As you can see, it's great energy. It's great speaking with her. She radiates, and it's really wonderful. Really nice experience. And thank you so much, Angie, for sharing and for sharing your story. At least part of it, and we get that, but we get the gist of it. We get the place of where you've been and what you've experienced, and sharing that is at least more than 50% healing. Just sharing it, just talking about it. Just, I go around and I share my things. I was like, you want to hear? Here. Do you want to hear my story? Here, there you go. So I'm looking for people to hear, and I said it because it's a part of healing. It's like when you do exercise. You have all these endorphins go to your brain and everything, and so you want to do it more. It's like so this has been really, really an inspiration.
I also find that as I share, it allows more people space to feel comfortable sharing their own, which then is that positive, not only am I sharing and releasing my own trauma by speaking it, I'm able to help others feel comfortable starting to share theirs, which is why I'm as open as I am.
This is wonderful. Yeah, this is wonderful. And when we realize as a collective, because there are many individuals that realize that, but when we realize that our power is in our unity, and our power is in coming together, and our power as a society and as individuals and as a society is to create cohesion and not separation and not fear, but wanting to support one another and to make the other person great, because when we make the other person great, guess what? It comes back. And then we continue and we move it forward and we move it forward and we move it forward, and soon enough we are expansive. We don't need to eradicate darkness. We just need to add more light.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah,
this is fascinating. Do you have any other thing, any last words that you want to share with your audience?
If you are struggling with anxiety or depression, stress, anything, reach out to me. I do 15-minute consultations. We can talk about how movement can really change your life, because it really can shift and move things. And I've seen incredible transformations. I myself am a testimonial to the transformation that can happen.
Yeah, that's great. 15 minutes, I saw from your website, it's no charge of 15 minutes?
Oh yeah, free 15-minute
consultation. Free 15 minutes charge to see how you can go and how you can continue if you want to continue, and that's okay.
Yep.
But the 15 minutes is an invitation to talk with Angie. She's really fun and she's really great and compassionate, and you can see it here. And so yeah, wonderful. Angie Berrett, thank you so much. Thank you so much for blessing this place with your energy and with your story and coming forward. And you who are here, this is wonderful. Thank you for your courage to be here. If you are here, that means that you had to be here. And so thank you for joining Abracadabra. Create what you speak. Literally create what we speak. I'm iLan Azoulai, spiritual mentor and a sound therapist, and your host for today. I'll see you soon. See you later. Litot. Bye-bye. Abracadabra, create what you speak with iLan Azoulai.